Before you watch the rest of this video, listen closely. This is a 3-sunburst episode, so you may need a little extra help. I suggest that you go and get a milkshake, and as you are watching the video, try to drink it as fast as you can. Why will that help? I'll let you know at the end of the video. Hello, my name is Father Ambrose Little, and welcome to Aquinas 101 Big Questions, Little Answers, the series where I do my best to answer your big questions about philosophy, theology, and more. As I mentioned earlier, today's episode is a 3-sunburst video, which means it will be more technical in nature and include a more in-depth answer. So with that being said, let's move on to today's question, which was submitted by a French philosophy teacher in the comments of Father Thomas Joseph White's video about essence and existence. You can find a link to that video in the description below. Our viewer is wondering about the role of the environment in the generation of an ens, E-N-S, or a being. He asks, indeed, a flower is obviously dependent on the ecosystem which makes it a flower: grass, sun, water, pollinators, and so on. How, according to Aquinas, can we associate this fact with this ontology? Okay, so I hope you are drinking your milkshakes. This is an interesting and complicated question, and there are several angles from which to approach it. Here's how I understand the question in different words. Essences determine natural kinds, and according to Thomistic philosophy, natural kinds are generated by things of the same kind. As St. Thomas says, quote, "For since every agent reproduces itself so far as it is an agent, and everything acts according to the manner of its form, the effect must in some way resemble the form of the agent." End quote. Yet, it seems obvious that the generation of a new being, a new ens, and even a being's continued existence, requires the intervention of things that are in the environment but are not of the same kind as the ens that is produced. How does this work in St. Thomas's ontology? The little answer to this question is that causation is complicated. For the purposes of this video, I think it is helpful to review St. Thomas's categorization of efficient causes. Consider that when St. Thomas discusses efficient causality, he accepts a division of efficient causality proposed by the Islamic philosopher Avicenna. Following Avicenna, Aquinas tells us that there are 4 kinds of efficient causes. First, perfective. Second, dispositive. Third, auxiliary. And fourth, advisory. The perfective efficient cause is most properly what we think of as an efficient cause. St. Thomas says, quote, "An efficient cause is said to be perfective inasmuch as it causes the final perfection of a thing, as the one who induces a substantial form in natural things or artificial forms in things made by art." End quote. The other types of efficient causes are subordinate to this, but nevertheless important. For example, the dispositive cause, quote, "prepares the matter for the form, as one who hews timbers and stones is said to build a house. This cause is not properly said to be the efficient cause if he induces the ultimate disposition on which the form necessarily follows." End quote. So this would be the work of something like a pollinator in the generation of new plants. A pollinator, like a bee, will carry pollen from an anther to a stigma of a flower, so that it has the proper genetic material to fertilize the eggs of the plant for the production of a seed. Then there is the auxiliary efficient cause. An auxiliary cause contributes to the principal effect. St. Thomas says that, quote, "It differs from the principal efficient cause in that the principal efficient cause acts for its own end, whereas an auxiliary cause acts for an end which is not its own." End quote. In this case, water, or the heat of the sun, contribute to the nutritive power of a plant, permitting the plant to take in minerals and produce chloroplasts for metabolizing food and producing sugar. There is more to say, but the principal point is this. The perfective cause is most properly the efficient cause of generation or sustaining a living being. But that does not mean that there is no dependence of that being on the environment to assist in providing the proper conditions for the causal effect to come into existence or even to sustain an effect in existence. Don't worry, we're almost there. In fact, the reality of a being's dependence on the environment is of central importance for the arguments for the existence of God. Because if there were no dependence relations between substances and the environment, then the arguments for motion would fail. So not only do complicated environmental relations fit into St. Thomas's ontology, they show important metaphysical features of his ontology that point to the necessity of the existence of God. Now about that sweet milkshake. Why did I ask you to drink it quickly at the beginning of this video? Well, it is likely that by this point in the video, you have a headache. If you followed my earlier instructions, then it will be unclear whether your headache comes from the milkshake or the content of this video. In philosophy, we call this causal overdetermination. The benefit of causal overdetermination in this case is that you don't know what to blame for your headache, the video or the milkshake. My suggestion is this: don't blame me, blame the milkshake. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Big Questions, Little Answers. I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, may God bless you and keep you in His grace. I think I crushed it. I hope that answers all your questions, but if not, please let us know by submitting your questions using #AskAFriar in the YouTube comments and on social media. And don't forget to like and share with your friends, because it matters what you think.